Welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise. Of course, national health insurance has been a hot topic for the last 5 years, and I believe it will be a hot topic for years to come, actually. It was introduced under the last administration, and while promising to keep it, the new administration is actually indicating that there may be some changes to it. We're very pleased to have back on Bahamas at Sunrise Surgeon Extraordinaire, Dr. Locksley Morrow, and he's wearing a different hat this morning. He is with the Consultant Physician Staff Association, and of course, he's going to share his thoughts and their thoughts on NHI. Dr. Morrow, welcome back to Bahamas at Sunrise.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and I'm happy to be here.
Now, we won't get into all of the details of NHI, but of course, the fundamental question is, why is NHI necessary?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I think that is a misperception that many persons have.
Okay.
National health insurance, as it indicates, it is an insurance. It is a fund that allows health care to be delivered in a timely, quality manner. Persons, I think, have mixed up the difference between universal health care versus a national health insurance. Universal health care has become a human right as mandated by the United Nations through WHO and basically oversighted in our region by PAHO. That actually came about from a conference that took place in Kazakh in the USSR in 1978, when the mandate from that meeting spoke to the fact that we should have health care for all by the year 2000. So in other words, that's something like about 22 years that they would have liked to have seen that no one in the world was denied access to health care, particularly because of their financial status. And that if you had an illness, that illness should not impact your ability to look after your family or to give shelter to them, shelter and food. So universal health care was formally introduced, or the concept was forwarded in 1978. The manner in which to fund it is what has been causing problems from 1978 to now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So when we talk about, obviously it's apple and orange. It's not necessarily apples and apples. And of course, this would mean that, you know, due to this misconception, we can probably say that there might not have been enough consultation on what NHI is and what it's actually intended to do.
I think so. That is a major misperception again. That, and the concept goes back further to when you look at industrialized Germany and welfare state of Britain. Germany started back in the 1800s, 1880s. Britain actually brought in their National Health Act in 1911, a copy of what the Germans were speaking to. Both of those systems are still in place today. And primarily that is, or that type of system is what most countries are trying to put in place to meet the mandate given by that Public Health Committee meeting in 1978. How do you ensure, or who is responsible to ensure that everyone, every citizen has access to health care and is not denied simply because they don't have money? That is what national health insurances are supposed to be doing.
There was a report, I believe it's called the Francis Report.
Right.
And maybe you touched on it a second ago, but it talks about the clinical negligence in England's NHS system. How does that impact plans for an NHI? And actually, can it be duplicated here?
Well, what the Francis Report speaks to is that despite administrators being or having the dominant role in healthcare delivery, unless you engage all of the stakeholders, unless you engage the the important ones or the primary ones, particularly the physicians, then that system, even after years, because their system was in place since 1948, and this is, I think, 2010 when that took place. So up to 40 years after initiation, in a country with resources that far exceeds ours, they are still facing problems that needs to be addressed. And the Francis report speaks to the fact that administrators, generally speaking, they create funds. Administrators do not have patients as their top priority. What they have as top priority is how are we spending the money, which is important, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, it is the patient and the patient experience that is more important in healthcare delivery than what you're doing with the money, right? And again, I can say this on our behalf, I guess. A happy doctor has a happy patient. If I can make my patient happy in the system or the circumstances in which I find myself, I am happy. If I cannot make the patient happy, if I have to tell the patient you're canceled, we don't have this piece of equipment, we don't have this bed space, then I am frustrated. The patient is frustrated. And in other words, the system, whatever you may say is happening with the money, the system is not working to the benefit of that patient.
What is or has been the position of the Consultant Physician Staff Association on NHI?
Well, last year at our annual general meeting in January, we all got together and they came to a point where they said, essentially, we already practice universal health care in this country. There is no one who is denied access to health care because of your race, your color, your creed, your nationality, your gender, or whatever. There is no denial of health care, and that is the concept of universal health care. In terms of national health insurance, how do you fund universal health care? The manner in which the administrators was trying to bring this thing forward, it was totally marginalizing and pushing aside what was the local experience and what was the understanding of how you can best deliver healthcare in this country. They got all sorts of input from New Zealand, from Costa Rica, they got KPMG, they got England, they got Canada. And they seem more interested in listening to these overseas persons rather than hearing what the local boots on the ground in the arena is saying to them. We are hoping, and therefore we said that we were not going to support it. Of course, you know that caused a lot of comments from the former minister about greedy doctors, about the former deputy prime minister that, oh, if the senior doctors don't want it, then we'll all find somebody else to deal with it. It totally, again, eliminating your local persons from the whole effort. So, no, we stood up and said we believe in universal health care. National health insurance is important, but the manner in which it is being done is not acceptable. And I believe, Dr. Morrow, that remains the billion-dollar question. You know, how do you pay for it? Exactly.
So we're certainly looking forward to continuing this conversation. I believe it will remain, like you said, it is absolutely a right, universal health care, but the question remains, how do we implement it? It's needed.
It's needed.
Dr. Morrow, thank you very much for joining us once again on Bahamas at Sunrise. Always good to see you.
Happy to be here.
You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.